Hello, everyone. This is Sula speaking. So, there's no AI Survivor game this week. As many of you know, I am traveling. I'm in the United Kingdom on a work trip. And there's no game today. But I did want to do what I've done in the past when I was unavailable. And that is to look at one of the games that we already did this season and look at the alternate histories for that game. There was a lot of interest in the first game, in game one. I actually had, I think, 3 different people separately contact me and asked if they could run alternate histories for the first game. So if you're new to this concept, it's we replay the same map 20 additional times and we look at what happened in those other games and we try to see, was the game that we watched on live stream typical, or was it like an oddball wacky result that was not going to happen a lot? And shocker, game one actually turned out to be an extreme outlier result that was not typical for how the game was played at all. So first, let's go through real quick and show what happened on the other 20 map replays. These are screenshots taken from after these games ended. So we have a Mal victory, another Mal victory. Mal was first to die in the game we actually saw. Space Race victory for Peter, a Kublai Khan victory, another Peter victory, another Kublai victory. Remember, Kublai was our big pregame favorite going into this one. Another Kublai Khan victory. Oh boy, a lot of people would have been happy in the picking contest if that had happened. A Churchill victory, domination. A little breaking the mold there. And then we have a Peter win, a Mao win, another Peter win, another Mao win, another Kublai win, Kublai win, Kublai win, 3 in a row. A Peter win, a Mao win, a Mao win, a Mao win, a Peter win. And then that's it, going through all 20 of them. So if you want the full breakdown, here is the spreadsheet that we have here with all the winners, all the runners up, and then all the first to die in the various games. And I'll go ahead and put the big spreadsheet with all the various numbers here. All right, so what was different on the map replays? Well, Hammurabi, our winner, never won a game. In fact, he was never close to winning a game. In fact, he was the first to die. Where's the conclusions page? He was the first to die 50% of the time. Yeah, and he had a single second place finish, the game that Churchill won, and 2 kills. He scored 4 points. He was never anywhere even remotely close to as strong as he was in the game that we watched on live stream. So not a typical result. If you watch the game and you saw him being attacked over and over again, I believe he was attacked 9 different times. That was normal, but he usually didn't fight off 3v1 and 4v1 coalitions. He usually just died when that happened. So that was the first big thing. Hammurabi, nowhere near as strong. In fact, much, much, much weaker. Other big change, how about Mao? This guy was first to die. He was very weak in the game that we saw on live stream. That was not the case in the alternate histories. In fact, we basically had a 3-way split for strongest leader in this game. Peter, Mao, and Kublai were all incredibly close. You might have noticed they basically split all the victories 3 ways. 6 for Peter, 7 for Mao, 6 for Kublai. That's close enough that there's no statistical difference. I'm willing to say that they all basically had even shots to win the game. And then the other 3 leaders basically had no chance. So they were all really, really close. But Mao actually won the most games. Again, not statistically relevant. And he was basically tied with Peter and Kublai for the highest score. So what happened? What was so different in the game we watched? Well, a couple things took place. Number one, Mao, for some reason, didn't research any cultural texts. He had no culture like 100 turns into the game. He actually had his second city culture flipped by Kublai. None of that happened in the map replays. He never had his second city cultural flipped by Kublai in any of the other games. He also didn't ignore culture so long in the other games. In fact, he actually founded a religion in about 5 or 6 of the games. He was one of the people who founded an early religion. So, yeah, that meant that he wasn't suffering from cultural problems. Instead of that second city flipping away, he actually had a holy city in that second city about a third of the time in these games. So Mao was much stronger in these other games. He just avoided his no culture, I'm going to lose my second city to a culture flip. And that made he was a much, much stronger leader in these games. As opposed to being first to die as he was in the game that we watched. Second, Kublai Khan did not do as many dumb things as he did in the game we watched on stream. So in the game we watched, Kublai ignored mining tech for like 40 turns. He had a gold resource that he didn't connect until like turn 45 or something ridiculous. He also ignored pottery tech until like turn 80, so he was really wasting this really strong starting position. He was much smarter with his tech choices in a lot of the other games. He did not repeat that pattern. So Kublai did better on research, but he had to contend with a stronger Mao in these games. And so that meant that those things kind of like offset one another, if that makes sense. A little bit weird. So Mao was stronger. Kublai was about the same because he himself was stronger, but he had a strong rival to his west, which he did not have in the game that we watched on live stream. And that like kind of canceled each other out. The big other thing was, as I said, Hammurabi died. Like, he died constantly. He was getting 3v1 and 4v1 over and over and over again in these games. How did Hammurabi survive in the game we watch is sort of the other question. Well, what happened is he got really lucky in terms of how the wars shook out. In the game, we ended up having 3 different 1v1 wars. We had a Mao versus Boudica. We had a Kublai Khan versus Churchill, and we had a Peter versus Hammurabi. 1v1, 1v1, 1v1. That did not happen in most games. In most games, a lot of those leaders were dogpiling on Hammurabi, so he got very lucky in that regard. Then, because Mao was so much weaker than he normally was, we had a situation where then Peter went off and declared war on Boudica while Kublai Khan was still fighting Churchill, and that left Hammurabi in a 1v1 against Mao, which he actually was able to win because Mao was so weak in this game. That did not happen in any of the other games. Hammurabi never conquered Mao in any of the 20 other games, like not even close. So the game just went really off kilter as soon as that happened, and we just went off into this wild alternate dimension, which was not reflective of the other games at all. If you want a more typical scenario, imagine a stronger Mao, and imagine Hammurabi getting carved up and dying in most games. He died by, he was out by turn 200 in most games. Yeah, look at these eliminations date, 166, 122, 141, 132. He was rarely around past turn 200. I mean, imagine in a couple games, but not often. He did die 90% of the time in these games. So imagine Hammurabi being dead, some combination of Peter and Mao and Kublai Khan getting the spoils from him, occasionally Boudica, but not as often. And then all the other low piece weight leaders becoming stronger, and then Churchill not having an ally to rely on. So usually Hammurabi was first, and then Churchill was next after that, because once Hammurabi was gone, he was the only high piece weight leader, and he wasn't strong enough on his own to hang out there. All right, so I think that covers most of the leaders. Oh, I do want to mention Peter. A couple words about Peter. So in a world where Hammurabi was getting taken out early, Peter was a huge beneficiary, and that's why Peter actually had the highest score in these alternate histories. Again, super duper close to Mao and Kublai. They were all basically tied, but he did have the highest. He also had the best survival rate. He had a corner start, so he didn't get attacked that often. He also basically tied for the most wins. Any of the most runner-up finishes by a wide margin. So if you're wondering, what was the correct pick in the picking contest, it was any of these 3 to win, Peter to runner-up, and Hammurabi to first to die. And those were, the correct picks as far as replaying the map goes. Peter did not score as many kills as Mao or Kublai. That's just because he didn't fight as many wars, and he was in a safer position. So these two were, high risk, high reward. They got more kills, they fought more wars, but they also got eliminated more often. Peter was safer, but he didn't get as many kills because he didn't fight as much as a result. But he was very consistent on top 2s. He was first or second in, I think, 14 out of the 20 games. So he was by far the most consistent to advance into the playoff round. A little unfortunate for him that, once again, the actual game on live stream, he didn't do that well. He got eliminated. He's actually done much better in the alternate histories than in the actual games for a couple years now. And then finally, Boudica, just to cover her briefly, she just doesn't have a good enough economy. She would always fall behind in every single game. Her land quality was not amazing, but she's just really bad at research. Really bad. So in every game, she would just fall behind in tech. Now, she had 3 second-place finishes, 1, 2, 3. But she was never in competition for first. She was always way behind, and she just kind of rode the coattails of a stronger leader. So she was bad on this map, and she was not a good pick to win, and not even a good pick for second place, because she tended to get overshadowed by the other leaders. Anyway, I think that more or less covers it. So really, really interesting game. I'm very happy that we got the game we did on live stream, even if it was a bizarre result, because it was a very exciting game. But it was not typical, not even remotely close to typical. So if you had Hammurabi first to die, if you had any of these 3 as the winner, I know 80% of people had Kublai Khan. He was not as dominant as the picking contest thought, but he was a solid leader on this map. He was definitely one of the better leaders. He just wasn't an 80% favorite. He should have been a 35% favorite. But anyway, if you picked one of these 3 to win, you picked Hammurabi to die first, you picked Peter to be second, you had good picks, even though that would have scored you 0 points in the actual game. All right, so anyway, we will be back next week for AI Survivor. We'll be back to the normal schedule. I will be back from vacation. I'll try to put up some vacation pics, and we'll see how it goes, because I'm recording this before I leave. Anyway, until then, hope everybody's having a great week. Take care, folks, and I'll see you again soon.